Hey guys, welcome to yet another video tute on the visual arts content areas. This particular video tute will focus on the frames and more specifically the structural frame. So let's see what this is all about, shall we? So just to cover some ideas again, the frames is one of the three main content areas in visual arts. Aside from the frames, we have the conceptual framework and we have practice. As far as the frames go, there are four of them. We've got the structural, which we will be exploring in this video too. We also have the cultural frame, subjective frame, and the postmodern frame. Now, in terms of the frames and their application, these four frameworks provide a particular focus for your study, and this can be applied both to your art making as well as your art criticism and art history. Okay, so, let's take a look at the structural frame and what it has to offer you. Alright, structural frame. Woo! Through the structural frame, you're focusing on how art can be understood as a system of signs. In this regard, you're looking at the idea of a visual language. It's important that you remember that word, or those words, visual language. And the symbolism that's created by such a visual language. Now, what's interesting about this is artists will often employ visual codes or visual signs that can be interpreted by the audience. Sometimes because of the meaning that has already been applied to them within the world, and also because of personal experiences that people can apply to particular signs and symbols. Probably one of the most simplistic ways I could describe this is when you see the McDonald's sign, you know that McDonald's is nearby. Alright, that's a recognizable sign, and the symbolism of that is that McDonald's is close. Obviously it's a little bit more complex in artworks, but it is a way for you to sort of get your head around the idea that the choices that artists make and that you make as an artist is very important. And I think I just started talking around in circles. Hope you understood that. Alright, let's see if we can clarify that a little bit, and we'll start firstly by looking at the structural frame in your own art making, okay? So you're the artist now and you're creating some wonderful things. As the artist, and hopefully you already know this through your study of practice, you have to make certain choices and engage in certain actions to achieve your intentions. The expressive form and the codes, signs, symbols that you choose to employ in your artworks are those choices and those actions. And what it's asking you to think about is, the symbolism behind those particular choices. So why you're choosing to use a particular technique or particular materials, and then furthermore why you're choosing to employ particular visual language. So choice of colour, the elements and principles of design such as line, shape, texture, pattern, etc. So again, it's just this reinforcement of the composition of your work and all the choices that you make in order to create this composition and this visual that is presented to the audience. And in speaking of the audience, as an artist, you're acknowledging their role and what they may bring to the meaning of the artwork as well. In much the same way, when you are applying the structural frame in art criticism and art history, you're again looking for the signs and symbolism within the work, but this time it's just from a different perspective. So when you're interpreting artworks that you're looking at, you are attempting to break down the visual language and how it refers to the world, and how they can be interpreted. So you're looking at the idea of what you're seeing. So the artist's use of colour, the use of the other elements and principles of design, such as line, tone? What about scale and size, space? Where is the artwork located? How is the artwork engaged with by the audience? Is it purely a visual artwork, or can it be touched? Is the audience an active participant in the work? You're looking again at the materials and techniques that they choose and how this can be symbolic of their intentions and connect them with a particular time and place. Now, hopefully, you're starting to understand the importance of knowing some other key words that you might associate or link with the structural frame. And some examples of these are rules and conventions, signs, codes, reference to the world, visual language, told you to remember that one, line, shape, colour, texture, tone, direction, adding compositional elements, balance, positive and negative space. And we're just going to pause for a minute and really appreciate this horse eating ice cream, because look at this little guy. It's amazing. Just to make it educational, there's a couple of signs and symbols going on in there. You! Nom nom nom. Well, I suppose it's only fair if I give you an example of how you can apply the structural frame to the breakdown of an artwork. So as you can see here, we've got lovely Andy Warhol taking over the screen like he did the world. No, but on a serious note, we have Andy Warhol's Coca-Cola bottles, very famous silk screen print made in 1962. Now, a couple of things that I would draw out from this particular artwork if I was applying the structural frame is the very fact that it is a silk screen print. And what I know about the technique of silk screening is that it can be repeated over and over and over again. And guess what? The artist does not even have to do it. So that gives you some insight into the fact that, one, each of these Coca-Cola bottles basically a replica of the one next to it. And Warhol, as the artist, didn't even matter if he was there. He could employ somebody else to create the artwork. On top of that, and to push it further, the fact that these Coca-Cola bottles, a consumer item and a very famous one at that, is made by the masses, for the masses, it's probably more appropriate, but is a consumer item, so it's replicated over and over again for sale. And Warhol chose to implement a similar technique that could replicate the same item over and over again. So there's a little bit of symbolism in that. He did, however, choose to change them slightly, as you can see. Get my little pen tool. Around here, not all the Coca-Cola bottles are completely coloured in, and that was done on purpose to show their individuality. In a way, a comment on the idea that although the same, each Coca-Cola bottle is still different and still special. Now, the symbolism, again, of using the Coca-Cola bottle is Coke is a well-known product. Right? The audience would be very aware of Coca-Cola and the place that they hold in the world. So Warhol's choice was very strategic in that he chose a recognisable object. Furthermore, the way that he has composed the artwork with the Coca-Cola bottles printed side by side is also symbolic, as it is pretty much an exact copy of how the bottles would appear in the store. So again, furthering Warhol's comment on consumerism and its place in the world during the 1960s. So that's just a couple of points that you could make about that artwork in regards to the structural frame. Hopefully that helped you a little bit, and it'll be a great idea for you to apply this now to your own study of an artwork. Go get 'em! Alright, so it's that time again, your favourite time of breaking down some sample structural frame questions in order to pick out the keywords that are presented to you that would indicate that these are, in fact, structural frame questions. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to write these out and circle the keywords and show all your knowledge, and I'm going to give you some thinking music because I'm really good like that. Alright, if you haven't got these written down, I want you to pause the video now because I'm about to change slides where I'll reveal the answers. Pause it now. Pause it. Alright, let's begin. Let's see how well you did, shall we? Question 1. If I could say it in words, that should be in, I'm really good at proofreading. Learn from my mistakes, everyone. If I could say it in words, there would be no reason to paint. Edward Hopper. Discuss this statement with reference to how artists communicate concepts using a visual language. Oh, look at this little guy. Visual language, everyone. Told you that you need to remember that, and that it is directly linked to the structural frame. That one was easy. Let's see if we've got a little harder one. Analyze the ways in which artists communicate through the use of particular symbols and organizational relationships in their work. In your answer, you could consider practitioners, including artists, architects, designers, and or filmmakers. Well, hopefully you picked up on the word that I've said like 10 billion times in this video too, which is of course symbols, right? But also the perhaps less obvious one is the organizational relationships, okay, because that connects to the idea of composition and compositional elements, the placement of these different symbols and signs and as a whole the visual language. Alright, what about number 3 though? How is the artist integrated form and surface decoration in this artwork? A little bit trickier, but for those of you who know your elements and principles of design would have picked up on the idea of form. Alright, 3-dimensional, alright, but also surface decoration because, ladies and gentlemen, it's a visual language to explore the surface and decorate it in some way, whether it be line, colour, tone, texture, shapes, you choose. Alright. Question 4. Apply the structural frame to describe techniques used in plate 1. Well, talk about giving you the answer. Structural frame. If you missed that, you need to listen to this video tutorial again. And question 5. Evaluate how practitioners use text, symbols, guess that should probably be signs. Again, great at this whole proofreading. Evaluate how practitioners use text, signs, symbols, and compositional strategies to construct meaning in their artworks. Well, here are 4 reasons why this is the structural frame. Alright, because again, it is all about that lovely visual language that I was talking about. So how did you go? Do you need to listen to this again? And that wraps up our video tutor on the structural frame. Hopefully that has given you a little bit of insight into what the structural frame is and how you apply it both as an artist and in your art critical and historical studies. Enjoy.